Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Think of this as your ultimate masterclass review session designed specifically to help you absolutely crush your bachelor's level anthropology exams. We're going to take all those dense readings and complex case studies you've been slogging through and distill them right down to their vital essence. By the end of this, you're going to have a rock-solid grip on the foundational concepts you need for your tests. So let's get into it.
To kick things off, we really have to ask the foundational question of our entire discipline. What makes us uniquely human compared to other animals? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, natural sciences study our bodies, right? Our biological evolution, our bipedal locomotion, opposable thumbs, all that good stuff. But anthropology, we look at the whole picture. We're looking at the fact that humans don't just survive. We create immense meaning. We build intricate rules and incredibly complex belief systems. And understanding exactly how and why we do that, well, that is the beating heart of anthropological study. Okay, here is a quick look at our syllabus for today's review. We're going to tackle this in 3 parts: core concepts, theoretical frameworks, and fieldwork methodology.
All right, let's dive straight into part 1, core concepts. Listen, if you only take away one single thing from today, please memorize E.B. Tyler's classic 1871 definition. Seriously, highlight this in your notes. Tyler established that culture is that complex whole which includes knowledge, beliefs, morals, and customs. But the absolute most important word in his entire definition is acquired. Culture is learned behavior. It is not genetically inherited. If you take a baby born anywhere in the world and raise them in an entirely different society, they are going to fully acquire the culture of that new society. It's a game changer of a concept. Building on that, you absolutely must distinguish between society and culture. This is a classic exam focus, guaranteed. While people use them interchangeably in everyday conversation, in academia, they're distinct. Society is the structural network we're born into. You know, the institutions, the groups, the family units. Culture, on the other hand, is the meaning we learn and impose upon that structure. Think of society as the hardware of a computer, and culture as the software that actually makes it run and gives it a purpose. Let's look at a concrete example of how biology and culture interact. Biology drives mating across basically all animal species, right? But humans, we don't just mate, we marry. Cultural conditioning, societal rules, deeply held beliefs, they completely dictate human marriage. Think about it. Who you can marry, what rituals have to take place, what colors are auspicious to wear, all of that is culture imposing human meaning onto a very basic biological drive. Moving right along to part 2, theoretical frameworks. Okay, so this timeline maps out our intellectual history. You're definitely going to need to know this trajectory for your exams. We started way back in the 19th century with classical evolutionary theory, which kind of wrongly assumed all societies passed through the exact same stages, from primitive to civilized. But as the discipline matured, we recognized that inherent bias. So we shifted into functionalism and historical particularism in the early 20th century. Then came structuralism, which tried to find the underlying universal rules of human thought. And finally, we landed on interpretive theory in the late 20th century, focusing entirely on how societies actively make meaning. Now, for your tests, draw a hard line right here between the 2 major schools of thought in the early to mid 20th century. First, you have the British structural functionalists like A.R. Radcliffe Brown. They were absolutely obsessed with society. They analyzed social structures, political systems, kinship rules, basically trying to figure out how society maintains order. Meanwhile, the American school, led by Franz Boas, focused heavily on culture. They looked at cultural particularisms, symbols, and how culture actually shapes the psychological personality of the individual. Make sure you know that difference. Bringing us into the late 20th century, we find Clifford Geertz's interpretive theory, which honestly dominates a lot of modern thought. Geertz famously argued that humans are suspended in webs of signification that we ourselves have spun. Culture isn't just some object to be measured in a cold lab, it's the informal logic of everyday life. To an interpretive anthropologist, a wink isn't just a biological twitch of the eyelid, right? It's a symbol. It communicates a secret, a joke, a flirtation. The anthropologist's main job is to interpret those intricate webs of meaning. Okay, let's hit part 3, fieldwork methodology. How do we actually do this stuff? Today, we love to critique the 19th century armchair scholars. These were academics who literally just sat in comfortable university offices, reading heavily biased traveler and missionary journals, and then inventing grand theories about people they had never even met. Obviously, empirical fieldwork completely changed the game. Anthropologists finally realized that To truly understand a society, you actually have to go out and live with the people in their natural habitat. The crucial turning point here is marked by Bronislaw Malinowski. He is basically the titan of fieldwork. He practically invented the modern method of immersive participant observation. He argued vehemently that you cannot just visit a place for a weekend. You must completely immerse yourself to grasp the natives' point of view, their relation to life, and their specific vision of their world. And Malinowski didn't just preach this, he lived it. Partially by accident, actually. Stranded in the Trobriand Islands during World War I, he spent an unprecedented 31 months there. He proved that to truly do anthropology, you absolutely must learn the local language. Interpreters just filter and dilute the truth. You have to live the daily life of the people you're studying to genuinely grasp that insider's view. It's non-negotiable. So, here is the modern fieldwork blueprint you need to memorize. You always start with a research design and literature review. But pay close attention to step 3. Before you can collect a single piece of data, you must establish trust. We call this rapport building. Think about it. If a total stranger ran up to you on the street and demanded a blood sample, you'd run away, right? But if they introduced themselves, explained their medical research, and built trust over time, you might say yes. Rapport is the absolute bedrock of field data. Once you've got that rapport established, you can finally deploy your specific data collection tools. As an anthropologist, your toolkit includes participant observation, where you are actively joining in the community's daily life, alongside direct interviews, mapping out complex family genealogies, and recording deep life histories. This is how you gather that rich, primary, qualitative field data. Now, you might be wondering, why go through all this trouble? Why not just hand out a survey and call it a day? Well, the critical distinction between ideal behavior, which is what people say they do, and real behavior, what they actually do, is exactly why we observe directly. The anthropologist John Beatty once noted, studying a local pharmacist who loudly preached the values of honesty to anyone who would listen. But through long-term observation, Beatty caught him secretly stealing hospital medicines. Surveys only capture the ideal. Immersive fieldwork captures the messy, real truth. Also, remember that modern fieldwork has evolved massively. It isn't just about traveling to remote islands anymore. Today, anthropologists study corporate offices in New York, digital spaces, gaming communities, and even conduct research among their own people to provide a true insider's perspective. We're also seeing a huge rise in autoethnography, where the researcher deeply analyzes their own lived experiences as a cultural text. Basically, the field is anywhere humans make meaning. So, as you head into your exams, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to ponder. How would you scientifically observe, decode, and explain your own daily digital culture? If you had to write an autoethnography of the apps you use, the virtual spaces you inhabit, and the digital rituals you perform every single day, what webs of meaning would you uncover? Good luck studying!